In this video, we're going to go into more details about importing records. So this is the main way that you are going to get properties into the system, and that's using the Excel spreadsheet. So the way to do it is to click Import Records, but let's look at the spreadsheet first. So here's the spreadsheet. This is where you're going to take your scrubbed list from the county, and you're going to populate these different columns. Now, it's important to note that even if you're not going to use all of these columns, everything has to have a value for the purpose of getting it into the system. The one thing I get asked about a lot is this reference column. Do I need to have a reference? Or I don't use a reference in my letter. That's fine. You don't have to use it in your letter, but you do have to have something in this column to get the import to work correctly. So if this needs to be a 0 or just a number, it can be, and it's not going to get on your letter unless you have that as part of the template, but it needs to be here. So all of these columns under the blue headings need to be here. You also need to leave the column header names alone. So if you call this owner street address or something like that, that's fine, but for the purpose of importing this record, you need to have it as it is here in the template. So do not modify the column headers, but you can put as much information in here as you want. This particular test has 10 properties, but this could be 500 properties and it would work the same way. So here we are, we filled out our template. Now let's do the import. So we're back here in LandMailer and we're going to click Import Records. We're going to get a confirmation. Are we sure we want to continue to import? We're going to say yes, click OK. We're going to choose the file that's on our computer somewhere. So I have mine stored here in my documents folder, but it can be anywhere. It doesn't matter where it is as long as you choose the file. There it's chosen. We're going to click import. And there we go. 10 properties have been imported. Now, if you were importing 500 properties, that would take a little bit longer, but because we're just doing 10, that's how long it takes. And after the import, we're going to get to this property list, and it's going to show us all the properties that we just imported. Now, we are only seeing the first 9 here because that's what fits on the screen, but if you imported 500 properties, that's where they are. So we know that they're in the system now. We know that they are ready to mail, and the way that we know that is that the offer date and the mail status fields are blank. Once we send these letters out, it's going to assign an offer date based on the day that we send out the offer, and it's going to put a mail status as mailed. And so that's how we know. So if I scroll up a little bit, you'll see that in this test, we did an offer date on September 27th, and it was mailed on this date. That's how we know it's been mailed. So these have been imported, but they have not been sent out yet. And that is pretty much it. That's as easy as it is to import records. Like I said in our overview video, if you wanted to, you can also add properties manually by clicking this plus sign. It's not a real efficient way to do it, but there have been times when you want to just add a property in. Say you're moving from another system and you want to put in property details for things in your inventory. You could do it through this manual entry screen. But that is it. That's as easy as it is to import records. There's no limit to how many you can import. It takes a little bit longer the more you have, but it really is just a couple of minutes to get a ton of property information into the system. So I want to show you something that can happen occasionally when you're importing records and an error that can pop up and why it happens. So I'm going to do a little test here. We'll do import records like we normally do. We're going to choose our Excel spreadsheet. We're going to click import. We get this error that some records have been skipped due to errors. But we also get the 10 properties have been imported. So let me show you what happened. So we did get our properties in like we expected, but if we click over to the spreadsheet, what we're going to see is it all looks fine, except for down here in the corner on row 29, there's a random Z. And so what the property did is, or what the program did, is it was going through each row, trying to import things, and it came across this Z, and it couldn't validate that this was a good record, and so it skipped it. And the purpose of that is to make sure we're not accidentally importing a ton of bad data into the database. You can imagine if this was 300 records long and there was an error on everything and you clicked import, you'd have a bunch of bad information. So if there's bad information or incomplete columns or random little characters, it does give you an error. The way to fix that is just to make sure you delete out these rows below that may have data or random characters. I usually recommend that before you do the import, just go to the end, kind of scroll down a bunch, just do a quick delete rows. This makes sure you get out any of the, you may have a random space or a letter in one of those columns that's going to give you that error. Let's just save this and I'll show you that since we did that and we go through the import again, we will be fine. So let's switch back here. Let's click import records, choose our template again, click import, no error. We just have 10 properties imported successfully.